Okay, to comment on today's section, which we're titling now Sun, Heart, and the Number, and then at least a couple of words from one of the essays so that it can be distinguished and not just have your main title be a number that you have to memorize should you want to go back. Hopefully this will help. So, I don't know that I have a lot to say this morning in comment. It feels good to start with the gazing, which is how traditionally Linda Ma and I and other teachers in our general work called Waking Down have begun. We do a gazing transmission or gazing meditation and then talk or comment or teach or whatever. So I begin with, once you are established in such joy, sheer gratitude is never far behind. And of course I'm making the point here that this deep gratitude, this gratitude in as and surging from the one and only heart nature, which is that joy we're established in at some point. This quality of gratitude can coincide and does with all of the events in the flux of living, even an apparent total lack of gratitude, even emotions of distress and resentment and hurt and anxiety and insecurity and drastic distress. Go figure. That's just the way it appears to be. And even in the midst of all that, as I say here, should anyone happen to ask you in the midst of such travails, you'll know and you'll tell them. This doesn't affect, excuse me, this doesn't affect what's most central to my heart of hearts and paradoxically pervasive to my whole life. Strange how that works. How inconceivably blessed we are. Each and all, truly, truly, truly. Then I get into some material that it's my plan to actually bring in tomorrow, and I'm looking forward to that. It will take us in a different direction tomorrow or the next time I make a recording, hopefully soon. And then I go into more of the travails here. Feeling, knowing, being the sun in your heart does not immunize you from life's ills, pains, and misfortunes. And this says it pretty well. I don't know that I need to make a lot of comments over time. I think it is important to say, to affirm again, that while the immediate flux of living, and for many people especially right after the deep realization of this feeling, knowing, being, the conscious sun-like presence in the one and only heart of all hearts. Once that realization is established conclusively, cellularly, so that it's just the given, it's obvious. For many people there emerges a period over time where it's as if stuff's getting dredged up all your worst, your pain, your issues, your patterns, your travails. Life can get more difficult, can all pile in on you, or things can seem fine on the outside and there can be this turbulence or dullness, flatness, grayness that you feel somehow simultaneous. I remember, I'm forgetting the name of the book, and I'm forgetting the name of the author, an English woman who became the devotee of a great Sufi saint in the 20th century. And she went to actually live with him and his family, as was the tradition in India where he lived. And at some point, all this stuff was just bubbling up. I think she was undergoing a huge resurgence of sexuality, which had, from her perspective, gratefully died off long ago. And she went to him and complained, "What's going on? I don't understand what's happening." And he said to her something along the lines of, "Where there's smoke, what else is there?" And she says, "Well, fire." And he says, "Right. What's the problem?" In other words, this is part of what can happen. So things can get worse, and even be a lot worse for a long time. There's a woman in my work in the mid-90s who went through her awakening, and she was Italian-American by birth, by parentage and ethnicity. And not long after the awakening, which was very joyful for her, she came to a sitting one day, and as had been the case before her awakening, when there was a lot of what we call rotting going on, she was in a pretty glum mood, and she was the kind of person whose feelings were pretty obvious if you took a look at her. And so I glanced over at her and I laughed, and her name was Joanne. I said, "Joanne, did I sell you a lemon of a realization?" And she chuckled a little bit, not too much that day. And after that, for a while she was still working with me, she would, every now and again, when she was feeling pretty glum and annoyed, aggravated, irritated, upset, whatever, she'd bring me a bowl of lemons as a gift and as a signal that once again this was happening. So things can get bad, they can stay bad, they can be bad, they can suddenly get rotten again. Over the long haul of your life and my life, and over the long haul of human further development, we are trending toward more joy, more obvious blessedness, more delight, more spaciousness. That doesn't mean that challenges will get less. I haven't noticed that exactly happening. But the radiance, the brimming overness of the white heat of this one and only sun in our one and only heart of hearts, the body-mind person just bathes in it even while it's going through its funks. So don't expect that feeling, knowing, and being that sun in your heart of hearts is going to prevent you from the ills, pains, and misfortunes that life can and will bring your way. But better times are coming, I guess is one simple way to put it. I've got Linda's quote here for you: "Nobody's perfect. It's what you do with the imperfections that counts." Probably will develop more of that point. Nobody's heart, capital H, is superior to anybody else's. Where do I get off making such a statement? Who am I to propose such a thing? Well, again, it seems to me that if we take, to use the religious language seriously, if we take the godness seriously, to use a religious language, if we take the godness seriously, if we take the oneness, the onlyness, the beingness to heart, if even intellectually it makes sense to us that there is this great one and only mystery that comprises and is not limited to anything or anyone, and that it's possible, maybe even inevitable, for us humans to eventually realize our oneness with that one and only, superiority and inferiority come off with our shoes when we enter that very, very, very sacred temple. And once we're living there, then that becomes increasingly obvious. In Sanskrit, they have a beautiful term for it, samadrishti, equal vision. In other words, seeing the equality of everyone and everything. And in saying this, I'm not pulling anybody off a pedestal, except perhaps in our minds and our not yet fully self-aware heart of hearts. Because we may be preventing ourselves from truly achieving our inherence in that equality. And as I pointed out early on, if you tend more towards self-inflation than towards self-negation, it's good to remember that your heart's not superior to anybody else's either. And the final essay today, each body, mind, soul is a refracting, unique refracting prism for the light of the one and only heart. I say in every other respect we are utterly unique, irreplicable, distinctive, an event and process like no other in all of nature. Well, okay, I mean, if we pick that apart, obviously we have many similarities and many points of congruence and alignment and likeness. Non-complete distinctness. So maybe I should edit that, or maybe I should just leave it commented on here. But I think in any case I hope you're getting my point. Celebrate, honor, and marvel at our sameness at the heart, and cultivate, clarify, and express your utter uniqueness, and serve others doing both of those together and in themselves. And let's find out where all that takes us. So, that's for today. My great pleasure to be meeting you here. I'm hearing from more and more people that they really appreciate these videos, and that emboldens me to do what I'm impelled to do anyway. This is my calling now. It's a big part of it. And so I sure hope it's of help to you. And knowing that there are some that it's of help to further encourages and empowers me to continue making these communications. Thank you. Much love. Blessings on your journey. Till next time.